Today is Tuesday, January 26th, 2021. It is now 5 p.m. This is the Westwood Select Board. We are having a meeting prior to the board adjourning to the Finance Commission meeting that will be held at 6 p.m. Both this meeting and the Finance Commission meeting will be live streamed on Westwood Media Center and recorded for future viewing. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 23, 2020 emergency order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting will be conducted via remote participation by the board. I have a chairs update, and I would remind everybody the chairs update is also posted on the town website. There's a lot of information within the chairs update tonight. I'm just going to talk about it at a high level. The town has publicized a great deal the fact that the 2021 rabies clinic will be canceled. This is due to COVID restrictions and certain other logistical challenges. The annual town election will be held on Tuesday, April 27th, 2021. Nomination papers are now available through Friday, March 5th, 2021, for any registered Westwood voter who would like to be a candidate for the town election. You may contact the town clerk, Dottie Powers, at 781-326-3964 or townclerk@townhall.westwood.ma.us to schedule an appointment to obtain nomination papers. The ballot this year will contain one seat for the Board of Assessors, which is a 3-year term, one seat for the Housing Authority, which is a 5-year term, 2 seats for the Library Trustees, which are 3-year terms, 1 seat, the moderator is just 1 seat, 1-year term. Planning Board has a seat that is for a term of 1 year to fill a vacancy, and then it's 2 regular seats for 3-year terms. The School Committee has 1 seat for a 3-year term. The Select Board has 1 seat for a 3-year term. The Sewer Commission has 1 seat for a 3-year term, and the Town Treasurer has 1 seat for a 3-year term. During the month of January, residents in Westwood receive a mailing to conduct our census. We would ask that this be completed as expeditiously as possible. It's important that we count every resident. The form can be mailed back to Town Hall or dropped off in the drop box in front of Town Hall. And I wanted to remind everybody as well that the updates on the Islington Center redevelopment are available on the town website. We will give more of an update at next week's meeting. This is about it. And then the largest issue this evening that I had was, I have with us this evening, I've asked our Fire Chief, John Deckers, and our Health Director, Jared Orsini, to join us, as there's been a host of late-breaking information on vaccines, and I'm going to ask them to speak as the subject matter experts. But I do want to let residents know that we have been fortunate in the past 2 weeks to have our first responders and some other town officials vaccinated as part of Group 1. So that is some good news. And with that, Jared and John and Chris, I'll turn it over to you all.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
I just want to, first of all, just thank Jared and the chief for the work in making sure that Westwood was a site that we could administer the vaccines, and for the work that they're doing along with their teams for the plan that they're just going to unveil to the select board in the town this evening. So Jared and the chief.
Okay, so thank you. It's nice to be with you all. We can just give you a little bit of a overview of the events that have transpired that brought us to where we are now. So a little bit ago, the Board of Health was able to obtain authorization from the State Department of Public Health to become a vaccination site host. So that meant we would be eligible to get our own vaccine directly from the state, firstly, in order to vaccinate our first responders in phase 1. So shortly thereafter, the opportunity arose for us to continue with this agreement, and through many conversations with Chief Deckers, we decided we would agree to participate in multiple phase vaccinations, some including public vaccinations and some private for eligible first responders and different categories in phase 1. So the governor announced yesterday that he was giving the go-ahead for local boards of health and others to start vaccinating phase 2, which is the most public eligible vaccine allocation that he's introduced so far. So before this, it's pretty much been healthcare workers and first responders. So we have been building this plan for a few weeks to use the Council on Aging building to host a series of vaccine clinics, dependent upon the availability of vaccine that is going to be allocated to us by the state. So the vaccine allotment that we're currently looking at is only a fraction of what we're going to need overall, but we need to start somewhere. So we've created a system to allow people to go online to request an appointment. They can access the town website beginning at some point tomorrow, where they will be able to put their information in: email, phone number, name, category they fit into, address, and hit submit. And then that will indicate to us that they're interested in obtaining a COVID vaccine when we have one available for them. So then we will allocate our slots based on those requests, and we'll notify people that they have a time available for them to get their first vaccine, and send them to link to fill out their paperwork to register so we can track their vaccine progress. As a reminder, this is a 2-dose vaccine, so we need to keep track of people to make sure they come back for that second dose. It's not like the flu vaccine where it's one and done. So all that will be done using a system that's called PrepMod, which the state has invested in, which will help us seamlessly transfer that information back and forth digitally between us, the MIIS, which is the Massachusetts vaccine tracking site, and as well as the billing site for the reimbursement. So all that will hopefully go off seamlessly. Obviously, we're requesting everybody have a tremendous amount of patience as we try to move this thing in real time, and we will get vaccines out. Tentatively, our plan for our first public clinic will be next Thursday, the 4th of February. So a week from this Thursday, we anticipate inviting residents to a limited number to come in and get their first dose. So Chief, if you want to jump in on that side, Michael Crawford and his group will be administering the bulk of the vaccination, and the Board of Health is tremendously grateful for this partnership.
Yeah, so it's a pleasure to be here this evening, and I'll make this real quick for you. Is basically the fire department has the staffing right now to be able to spin up and handle anywhere from 60 to 250 vaccinations a day, depending upon location and where we can find facilities big enough to do that. So Michael Crawford is our EMS coordinator, and he is basically the lead for this. He's handling most of the vaccines with our public health nurse, Margaret Sullivan. And then we're supplying some other logistical support. So we met today at the Council on Aging. We have a plan all set up. We're ready to go, working with Jimmy McCarthy from DPW to make sure that we have all our COVID protections in place. And as Jared stated, our goal is by the 4th, assuming we can get the vaccines. That's our biggest hurdle right now, is making sure that we have enough vaccine to do what we need to do. If once we have that, it's just a question of spinning things up, and we can grow this system. That's what we've done. And the fire service is all built on growing resources based on incident demand. And we've designed a system that we can grow this drastically and quickly as we need it, as long as the vaccine's available.
That's great. Thank you both. John or Jared, I just want to be clear to everybody. There are some sites that are designated as statewide sites. We are solely a Westwood site.
Correct.
So
Correct.
people who do not show up with a proof of Westwood residency or pre-register as Westwood residents will be politely turned away.
Yeah. So John, that's a very good point to point out to everyone. Is we use a term called our first public. It's actually going to be a private. So that's why we're having people use that Google form it's basically save this information. When we have vaccine available, we'll send you a private link. And that's why it's going to be tough for some of our seniors, because some of our seniors are technology challenged. But we're going to rely on their family members to help them out, because the state does require an email through this prep mod to get it. And we're going to extend that partnership to the COA with Lena, and her team is going to help us make sure that we have all the seniors ready to go, so that we can streamline this process and move people through safely and quickly through this and get these folks vaccinated, and then get them on their way to hopefully open up Westwood so we can start enjoying life again.
No, and I think that's great. The more Lena can do on outreach is great. I was on the site today trying to register my 88-year-old father who doesn't know what an email is.
Yes.
So it really is not very user-friendly for some of the folks. That's the system we have to use. That's the state's requirement. And it's for their tracking purposes. But the more that Lena can outreach and help people, I think that's going to be a huge help. It's a 6-page process.
Wow.
6 steps, 6 pages.
Yeah, and when we were doing it individually, because when we started, the state hadn't given us the software yet, so we actually had to take all the individual forms, all 90 of them, and manually enter them ourselves. So it took us about a day and a half.
And the other intimidating piece, and we can talk with Lena too, is that it does ask for people's insurance cards.
Yes.
But residents will not be charged.
Correct. There's a
They will not be
reimbursement.
charged.
There is no fee for the for the vaccine. There is a reimbursement for administrative costs, which has been negotiated by the Commonwealth and the insurance companies. So, and that's
But the residents will pay nothing out of pocket.
They will pay
That's
nothing out of pocket.
because we want to entice them to get it and make it as easy as possible. But we need to get that message out there that although it asks for an insurance card, that's a process behind the scenes that has nothing to do.
And that is required, as you said, but they will not be charged. And if for some reason somebody is, please let us know, and we'll work behind the scenes and fix that problem too, because they should not be charged.
John, there's a question in the Q&A.
Oh, I'm
that's
sorry.
worth asking. No, it just came up.
Does PrepMod require a unique email per recipient of the vaccine? That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. Jared, any idea?
So up until now, it was required that every registrant have a valid email account to be tracked. I was on a DPH call, the 3 o'clock call today, where they had mentioned the possibility of revising the system to remove that requirement, being it was such an impediment to the 75 plus group that we're targeting currently for appointments. So I believe this will be removed. I just can't confirm it's been removed as of right now, and it may not be removed by the time we actually go live. So, it's one of those things where everybody's working with the system, other health departments across the Commonwealth. We're giving feedback to DPH. They're going to PrepMod. They're seeing how they can tweak things to make it a little bit more user-friendly. And, they've thought of things that we haven't, and we think of things that they haven't. So, we're trying to interface with each other to make it easier for the user. So hopefully it will be removed. That's the indication. I just don't know how soon that will happen.
The only thing, John, to remind everyone though, is there's no way, if we don't have a dedicated email address, to send them a reminder of their second dose. And we have no way to track these folks down based on that information, other than having to call them, then requires us to tool up more labor on our side instead of having the system do it. We'll make it work by all means, but just if they could, challenge maybe a granddaughter or grandson or somebody to give them a hand doing it, and we can send the grandson or granddaughter the email.
No, and I think listen, everybody's trying to do the best they can, but I think what's hard is sometimes people might have a family email, so it's one email. Or if a child is trying to register both parents, they now need to enter 2 emails.
Yes.
So it's not ideal. But no, I hear you. But I don't mean to raise all the struggles, because we do really want to communicate to people that we will help them. It's definitely not the most simple process, but it's a process.
When will people be notified that they can go through these steps, Jared?
Once we have vaccine in hand and we have request forms filled out we will then start allocating appointments and notifying individuals that they have a time slot they can go on to the prep line site.
Back up though to the request forms. When are people going to know they can fill out the request form?
The request forms will be going live tomorrow.
And will a call go out to the community? What's our means of notification?
We're gonna.
Jared, I can
go ahead.
answer that if you like. So we
Thank you.
will be putting this on the website. We'll also be putting it on our social media sites. We'll send it out to our wire email distribution list, and we will have a code red call, an alert Westwood call by the end of the week.
It just underscores again how important it is for people to be signed up for the calls. And I say that out loud, anybody watching, anybody who watches this meeting afterwards, or if you have neighbors that qualify for this category of first round in a somewhat private, but is it the second phase that we're in? Is this
Yes.
part of the second? Okay, so
Phase
phase two, the state's phase two. It's just so important for people to hear about these things. So alert people if they're qualified. If you have neighbors, I just think that this is a community effort and we should all do our best to steer the right people in the direction of being able to do this. And I raised my hand. If you guys need an extra set of hands in any way, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to help if I can.
And the only other message that I want to get out there for folks too is if they have an opportunity to use some of the state sites, Gillette, Fenway, by all means, take that opportunity. Because as Jared had pointed out, and I've said it already, we're having trouble securing vaccine. So if we have a number of 1,600 plus or minus folks that are at the 75 plus or minus years old, well, if they're only giving us 100 doses, it's going to take us 16 weeks to get those folks done. So please, I want people to get done as soon as they can. Don't wait for us. We're working our hardest in the background to get the vaccine. But if you have an opportunity to use one of the other sites, by all means, you won't hurt our feelings because we just want to make sure that you get done. And that's why we're taking on the ball to do it as best we can. But again, we're restricted on what we can get for vaccine.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chair?
go ahead, Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm sorry, I see Board Member Walsh has his hand up. Did you? Oh.
Was
So
your
Jared
way,
and Chief, just for clarification, my understanding is where a resident receives his or her first vaccine or the first shot is where they're supposed to receive their second shot. So is that still accurate?
Yes.
Yes.
So Mr. Chair, just to let the residents know, wherever you receive your first shot is where you're gonna have to receive your second shot. So if you do avail yourself to the Westwood opportunity, then that's where you're gonna have to get your second shot. But as the Chief said, if you avail yourself to another option that may work for you for the first shot, that's also where you're gonna have to get your second shot.
And just
Mike,
remember,
would you-
your first shot and second shot should be the same vaccine.
Yes.
And
Michael, do you have
there will
something?
be
Sorry.
there will be more opportunities as more organizations open up sites. Wegmans, CVS, Osco, Walgreens, all of the pharmacies. Everyone will be coming in to begin to offer vaccine by appointment to the various groups. So we may be right now getting going, but we will certainly not be the only provider in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So there will be ample opportunity. And I think the system is designed to push most residents through the high throughput sites, which are like Fenway and Gillette. That's where the majority of Norfolk County, I assume, will be getting vaccinated. I know everybody's eager to go, to get it as soon as possible. So that, if they don't get a spot, the first week or the second week, we need everybody to understand how many people are waiting, and we will get to everyone in some capacity in some site who wants to get a vaccine, as soon as we're able. 100 doses a week is unfortunately not going to fill the need that we see.
All right. I think, Kate, thank you for the question. It triggered a good conversation. I think we're going to move on to.
Can I just say, we don't get Jared in front of us often, if ever, before. And I know you're not the only person working hard, but I know how hard you've been working. We all know how hard you've been working. And I think we should publicly thank you for what you've
Thank you,
done.
Jared.
And Chief, it goes without saying, But, you know, we don't see Jared in our meetings, and I think you're a behind the scenes guy. So thank you.
Thank you. My staff is, you know, obviously we're sharing this, and we're definitely in it. I'll
It's a
say that much.
marathon and not a race.
It is. We're
sure.
yeah, we're in it. So we appreciate your kind words. We're doing everything we can. Everybody who watches
it up.
this, please know. And also, if they, you know, if they have questions, you know, they can email us. And I know we're getting a million phone calls like other departments too. But you know, everybody who has called me today asking to get on the list, you know, I apologize here if I can't get to everyone. But we will send out the code red to alert people how to register for their, you know, to request their appointment. And, you know, we'll do what we can with what we have.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jared, for all that you do. We
Thank
are
you.
under a tight timeline tonight because we have a deadline of 6 o'clock. So we're going to move on. PM's going to give a very brief budget presentation.
Very brief. So we continue to work on the FY22 budget. I just want to start first with state aid. Tonight, the governor will give his State of the State address. So he will talk a little bit about the FY22 state budget and what the local aid expectations are. His budget does come out tomorrow, so we'll have some real look at that tomorrow. However, they did preview that at the MMA meeting last week, and it's very good news. We at this point do not expect to see any reductions to state aid, and we'll most likely see some small increases. So that's good news and will be helpful for us. I'm just going to very quickly share a document. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Yes. Okay. So just we're continuing to work on the municipal budget.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Excuse
We
me,
don't
Pam,
have
we
it
can't
yet.
see it.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can you see that screen?
No, hit the share screen and then hit the thumbnail.
Sorry. Somebody's knocking on my door here trying to get in.
I think it's Tish trying to help you.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
There you go. It's coming on now.
All
There you
right.
go.
There you go.
Sorry about that. Okay, just super quick, we're working on the municipal budget. The current municipal budget in fiscal 21, $21.6 million. You can see by the pie chart, most of that is spent on public safety and public works. That's really the bulk of the municipal budget. This document is not looking good. Apologize for that. Also, we're salary driven. 78% of this budget is salary. And again, that's really primarily in our public safety and public works departments. We've done a lot over the last couple of years to really help build the public safety departments. That's where most of our effort has been over the last several years. Fire and police staffing, we've been able to increase in those departments to help provide better service to the community. This graph just shows that we've tried to maintain modest growth in this municipal budget over the last several years. We've been able to achieve that. Looking at FY22, our current projections for the FY22 budget is $22.3 million budget, about a 3.1% increase over the current year. And the graph at the bottom of the table shows where does that increase come? And most of the increase, over 300,000, is in that public safety area, where that's our biggest area spending, followed by the public works area, 148,000. Looking further at the what's driving the increase, so 3.1% increase, 686,000. The bulk of that coming in the salary category, $603,000. This budget does not include any new positions for FY22. The department heads tried to work under the select board's directive to really have a streamlined budget for FY22. So there are no new positions. There are allowances for salary obligations, as well as a couple of adjustments that occurred in the current year that we're continuing into FY22. One is that the public health nurse position, when that transitioned this year and there was a vacancy, it was filled on a full-time basis based on the need of the community. And we're going to continue that budget in the next year, as well as some increase in building inspection hours based on activity that we've seen in the community. We have some inspectors who had been working on University Station related projects who are now being needed over on the residential side because of the activity in town. And so we're adjusting that budget accordingly. So no new positions, but some changes in salary. Very minor on the expense side. We have some increases in our hardware software maintenance, particularly due to some additional software that we're using for public safety departments. A small increase, $19,000 in our building maintenance department. We continue to really want to make sure that we're doing enough to maintain our buildings safely. And then $15,000 in our police training expense line. So very relatively minor and few changes for that budget for FY22. I can stop sharing with that. So the municipal budget, just over a 3.1% increase at this point. We'll continue to work on the capital budgets. We continue to meet with and work collaboratively with the school departments on their budget increase. We'll wait and see what the governor's news is tomorrow. But again, we expect that to be good news and we appreciate that from the state. And then we'll be getting back to the select board at your next meeting, kind of putting everything together on where the overall budget stands.
Thank you, Pam. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, Pam, on the increased hours for the nurse, you don't have to do it now, but maybe when you come back, because I know we're pressed on time, I'd like to know how the incremental hours are being allocated with the COA needs, or what goes into that incremental staffing time.
Yes, and I would have to say right now, the hours are all being used for COVID support.
Yeah. That's
So I
not
think
what it's intended for,
Yes.
right? Yeah,
I
so
think
more
we're looking-
prospectively.
Yes, they'll have to look at that for FY22 on how best to allocate those. Yes.
Okay.
Pam, the only good news is that the MMA, the governor said he expects the increase to be in line with the state revenues, which have gone up to 2.7%. So hopefully it's all good news tomorrow.
Yes, I think it's going to be, and that follows up on, what we heard in our current year, FY21. We thought state aid, might have been a real problem for us in the current year and FY22. But the state has committed to helping out communities. They did indicate that for their 22 budget, they will use their stabilization funds. So they're going to open up their savings accounts that are designed to help at these times. But that's certainly going to be helpful to us in putting together the budget for our municipal and school departments.
Excellent. Thank you, Pam. Do we have anything else? Okay.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to move on. So I want to welcome, our next subject is the discussion of the elementary school building project, a brief update before we head into FinCom. So I want to welcome Carol Ahern, Emily Parks, Maya Plotkin, and Lemma Jean Baptiste.
Carol Lewis.
I'm not Carol
Lewis.
Ahern.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Carol. I'm looking at Pat as I said your name. Did I catch all four of you? Carol Lewis, Emily, Maya, and Lemma.
Same neighborhood, Carol.
Yeah, that's true. And it was a compliment for sure. So I'm okay with it. It was just for clarification.
I'm glad you said that. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having us tonight. We appreciate you inviting us to provide a really brief school building project update. And we appreciate your continued collaboration, support as we really work through this very exciting and important process. We will be brief, I promise. And right now, I just want to turn it over to Maya Plotkin, who, as you know, is the school building committee chair. Go ahead, Maya. Take it away.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks for having us, as Carol said. So the agenda for today, just really quick, we want to give you an update on the project schedule, and we want to give you an update on the project budget as well. Yeah, if you can flip one more, Emily. So as you know, we had originally thought, starting way back, that we would have a special town meeting in March for this project, meaning this March 2021, with the ballot vote on the regular April election. Clearly COVID came along, we couldn't do that. So the next plan was to move to the regular town meeting in spring 2021, followed by a special ballot in June. A number of people raised concerns. We had our own concerns with this. It would make town meeting very long, possibly go 2 nights. Economic uncertainty is still a major issue with, with a lot of us, with a lot of residents. It's a busy spring schedule, lots of campaigns going on. It's with COVID restrictions, it's very difficult to really reach certain portions of the population to educate them. So we began rethinking this a little bit and thinking, okay, well, what would happen if we pushed this vote to the fall? So if you see option one that's on the screen is what I just talked about, having the town vote in May and the ballot in June. Option two shows pushing the schedule. So we would have a special town meeting in the fall of October of 2021. That would basically have our architect and our OPM put pencils down around April, May of this spring and pick them back up after we had hopefully a successful vote. They would then move into the design and bid document phase, and we would start construction in December of 2022 with an anticipated opening of July 2024 and completion, meaning the existing building is gone, the fields are constructed, the parking is finalized in November of 2024. Couple disadvantages to this particular plan. First of all, the impact to cost. Our cost estimators told us that they anticipate that if we put pencils down and pick them back up about 6 months later, that delay could cost us about $700,000 in addition to the project cost. So that's on top of our already existing project cost. We also heard a number as high as $1 million, but I think OPM, Compass and Doran Whittier are very comfortable now that they think it's more like 700,000. The second is the impact to schedule. As you can see, starting construction in December of 2022, starting a construction project where you're doing exterior work and site prep in winter is very problematic for a number of reasons, but most particularly, as you can imagine, if we have a tough winter, we would have to shut down the site and wait until that winter clears because all of this work will be outdoor work. We won't be, clearly there's no building to be working inside of. And already with this option two schedule, the December 2022 to June 2024, that schedule is already very tight. So I think it's likely that would get pushed and delay us even further. So to avoid these two issues, the negative impact to cost and to schedule, we thought of an option three. And this is what we presented to the SBC on Friday, and this is what the SBC eventually voted to move forward with. So this is where we have a town vote in this May, but it's not for the full project cost. Basically, we would take only the amount necessary to allow the design work to continue through May, June, July, August, September. And then in October, we would have the big project fund. And we anticipate this town vote amount in May 2021 to be about 1.6 million. We will have a specific number for the warrant probably by the SBC's next meeting on February 5th. But right now, I think that's a good number, the 1.6 million. So we would ask the town to sort of take 1.6 million of the total cost that we would be voting on in the fall, vote on it in the spring. This would have no impact to property taxes. And then that would allow the architect to continue working on the design documents. And that would essentially not guarantee us, but essentially put us back on track with the original schedule. So you can see option one and option three have the same schedule where we would start construction in July of 2022 and we would move in February of 2024 with a final project completion of August 2024. So this option seemed to mitigate the issues created by option two while still allowing us the benefits of delaying the vote to the fall. And that I think is really why the SBC voted to move that forward. So we do have a warrant article, a placeholder on for this spring. And I believe at this point, this is what we would like to use that warrant article for. So that's a really quick summary of the project schedule. I'm going to pause here, see if anyone has any questions on the schedule. Nope. Okay.
Hearing none.
And we have
Right.
one other slide. I will be brief. So, the SBC has also been thinking about the budget for the project. And as you know, we went through a lengthy feasibility study process, had many options that we evaluated, eventually arriving at the preferred option. that as part of that process, the SBC has established a target project cost, which is really a not to exceed number. This was the not to exceed number was really based on some sort of high level design and cost estimates. Since that time, as we've gone through the schematic design process, we have worked with cost estimators to really look at the specifics of the project. And they provided us with this reconciled construction cost estimate here. And you can see that the reconciled construction cost estimate was about $500,000 above what we had targeted. And so the SBC has been through a process where the design team provided a series of options for us of things that we might consider, choices that we might consider to value engineer to bring the cost of that of the project down. We established working groups. Working groups had, very thorough discussions to look at the pros and cons of these recommendations, and came back at the last SBC meeting and made their recommendations. The group voted to accept recommendations that resulted in a $1.4 million savings. And so we are now about $893,000 below target. I'm sorry, I don't know why my slide is kind of wonky here. You can't see the big number, but you can, it's about 69 million. So we're about $800,000 under the target cost. We do have 2 alternates that we're carrying, so that later in the process, we might have the option to add those back into the process once we have a handle on the actual costs. And so I think that is it. If there are any questions.
Yeah, Emily, I just want to add to what you said. Having been on one of the working groups and also on the school building committee meeting, both groups really were looking for reductions in costs that wouldn't have a consequential impact on the integrity of the project. Emily went back to the teaching staff or various things. We wanted to make sure that the educational components were maintained, that we didn't compromise anything. And it was really a very positive outcome in terms of going through and finding areas where we could cut what might be called excesses, things that weren't really necessary, and yet still coming up with a very high quality project proposal. So I commend the participants and the leadership in getting us through that so that this could come back and show that kind of result.
Yeah, I agree absolutely with you, Nancy. I think it was a really good process, and I can tell you the educators feel great about this building. We're very, very excited.
Yeah, I just want to thank the whole school building committee. I know this has been a lot of work, and I'm relieved that the larger vote will be in the fall. I think that'll give some breathing room to just bring a great product across the finish line. And it is an exciting time, and we'll all take the time to educate ourselves and our friends and neighbors about it and rally the town around it.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yep. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it, and we will
See you shortly.
see you.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, moving on. Next on our agenda is the annual town meeting article discussion, potential vote to amend, to accept, or remove articles. I don't know that we're at that place tonight. I don't know, Michael and Nancy or Chris, if anybody
No.
has any other thoughts.
I don't think
thought
we
we-
need to make any changes.
I don't either. I thought we'd get through the FinCom meeting tonight and then amend as needed later.
Yep.
Michael, you okay with that?
I am.
Okay.
Usually
Chris, you
wait
don't
and hear what questions from the other areas.
Right. Chris, you okay with that?
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, we're gonna move on to appointments and reappointments of boards and committees. Tish, do you want to take us through that?
Sure. So we have one appointment, well, reappointment right now for the Housing Partnership Fair Housing Committee for Mr. Michael McCusker.
And he wants to continue to serve?
He does. He wants to continue to serve on the partnership.
Yeah. And I think that's fine, given his appointment to the planning board is just for about 4 months, and he's already been serving on the housing partnership. I think that's great that he wants to stay on. I move we reappoint Michael McCusker as a member of the Housing Partnership Fair Housing Committee for a term to expire June 30th, 2021.
I'll second.
Okay, I will call the roll. Mrs. Hyde,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Okay, moving on to the Dedham Westwood Water District. I feel like we,
Yes, Mr. Fox, term as a water commissioner expired the end of 2020, and he's asking to be reappointed. And Eileen Kermain is in favor of his reappointment.
okay, I have no issues.
Yep, I move we reappoint James Fox as a Dedham Westwood Water District Commissioner representing the town of Westwood for a term to expire on December 31st, 2023.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Mrs. Hyde,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you both. Okay, we have meeting minutes from January 4th, 2021 and January 11th, 2021. I did not have any issues.
I do. Tish, some minor things. Page 2 of January 4th. I'll get, I wasn't even going to do them, but I think just to have it be, since I took the time, we'll make the corrections. Return to open session. And then the next line on July 13th, 2020, the town of Norwood, capital T on town.
Yep.
And end of the second paragraph, the last line starts with court to preserve the town's rights. Towns is possessive, so it's apostrophe S.
Yep.
Nora might be able to help with this. The third paragraph refers to site visits. So Nora, let me read this out loud. Are you still on? Because I'm looking at my, yeah. It reads, from August 2020 to January 2021, members of the select board and town staff continue to hold various meetings to assess the best course of action. During this time, site visits were conducted and light meter readings were taken. And I wanted clarification. I was thinking of saying site visits were conducted at abutting properties in Westwood, but I wasn't sure if you did a site visit on the Amazon site.
I did not.
Okay.
The site visits were on the abutting properties.
Okay, so Tish?
Yep.
Again, the sentence is during this time, site visits were conducted, and then insert at abutting properties in Westwood.
I'll make that change.
Okay, and down to the paragraph 2 more down, or 3 down, over the past few months.
Mhm.
The second line says major issues, comma. I think it should be major issues, colon.
Semicolon.
Or
right,
semicolon,
that's
yes,
fine.
semicolon. Because it's,
All right.
yeah. And let me just see if there's anything else. Page 3, this is a question for Mr. Ahern. Halfway down the page, there's a paragraph that starts with the settlement agreement is a private contract. At the end, the paragraph reads, given the town's limited leverage as a municipal corporation. I didn't know we were a municipal corporation, so it should it read as a municipality?
That would be fine.
Okay. It just struck me as different than I've seen. Those are the edits I'd like to recommend, John.
No,
Right.
I'm fine with this. Do you want to make a motion as amended?
I move that we approve the January 4th regular meeting minutes as amended.
I'll second.
Okay, Mrs. Hyde,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you both. And then we have the January 11th.
January 11th.
I move approval of the January 11th regular meeting minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Mrs. Hyde,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
aye as well. Thank you both. Other business that may properly come before the board. I am not seeing anything in the queue. So I will move on. Our next meeting of the select board will be next Monday. Hard to believe, but it's February 1st at 5 p.m. It will be held via Zoom. When we adjourn this evening, we will be immediately heading into the Finance Commission meeting that is scheduled for 6 p.m. Anybody have anything else? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn to the FinCom
Yeah,
meeting?
I move we adjourn into the Finance Commission meeting starting at 6 o'clock this evening and adjourn from that meeting at its end.
I'll second.
Okay, Mrs. Hyde,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Have a good night. See you
Have a
shortly.
good night.